This video is an introduction to the new features available in Carlson Layout version 1.06. Let's start by looking at Stake Polyline. From the Layout menu on the bottom right, I can press the plus icon. You'll notice a new option in the list for Polyline. Selecting this, I can choose any polyline on my drawing, and I'll choose this road, and I have the option to stake out the polyline. You'll notice two main methods of staking out a polyline in 1.06. Stake closest will guide me to the nearest point along the polyline from where I'm standing. This is very similar to how we do stake line from the context menu. Alternatively, I can choose user defined. User defined allows me to be more specific about how I want to stake my polyline by letting me specify how I want the straight sections and the curved sections to be defined. For straight sections, I can choose to do in interval, segments, or critical points. For curved sections, I can also choose interval, segments, or critical points, and I can turn on and off the center point. So leaving those both at critical points, let's have a look at what's been defined. On my curved section, a layout target has been created at the beginning and the end of the curve, as well as the radius point and the center of the curve. And for each straight section of the road, I have a point at the beginning and the ending of the straight section. If I press Done, you'll see that all of those targets have been added to the layout list with red flags that will turn green as soon as I lay out those items. Notice the new blue icon in the bottom left of the stakeout list. This icon shows how we're iterating through the stakeout list. The down arrow indicates that we're iterating from the top of the list to the bottom. I can toggle this icon if I happen to be starting at the opposite end of the street, and it will work upward through the list. Or I can tap again to get to the stake nearest option, which will guide me to the nearest item from where I'm standing on the list. I'm going to stop staking and clear my list and jump over to a draw feature. Carlson Layout 1.06 has the ability to create circles. If we tap Create Circle, I can create a circle anywhere on my drawing, and it's very easy. I simply tap to create the center point, and then I can drag and drop the red dots here to move both the center point of my circle and the outside rim of my circle. I can do that to my heart's content, or if I want to be more specific about where I want it, I can choose the center point from my list of points. And for the radius, I can either type in a value, or if I choose, I can pull the value from CAD or using my ruler on the map screen. So I'm going to go ahead and just create my circle right here. And of course, let's look at laying that circle out using Stake Polyline. We'll go to Layout, Add, Polyline. And this time, I'm going to choose Stake Closest. And you can see that both the center of the circle and the perimeter of the circle have been added to my layout list. Right now, I'm staking the perimeter of the circle, so I'm being guided to walk toward the outer of the circle. I can tap on the list to change to the center point at any time. So that's stake circle. You may have noticed that my stake icon is turned yellow. This indicates that I was in stake nearest mode and I overrode the selection by tapping a different item in the list. I can quickly change that back to the regular stake nearest by pushing the icon again. Over in the measure screen, a neat new feature in 1.06 is that Carlson Layout now supports external measurement triggers. This means you can purchase any Android trigger device, such as this one that I purchased for about $8 on Amazon.com, and if you bond it to your device, it should now function as a Bluetooth trigger for measurement within Layout. Now I want to go over some new features to help you better handle large job files in the field. From the dashboard, if I choose a new job, and I'll just create a job here and call it Civil Demo 3, 4, and choose Done. The next option I have is still to bring in some data, so I'm going to choose to bring in a drawing file. And here you'll see the new Import Drawing menu. This new option gives you the ability to turn things off from your drawing. If you don't want to bring in an entire drawing that's quite large, you can exclude blocks, exclude points, exclude invisible layers or layers that are disabled in your drawing file. Or if you want to be more proactive, you can manually select specific layers that you want to bring in from your drawing. Or You could even manually box select specific areas of the drawing that you want to bring in. If you don't need a whole large drawing, you just need one building on it or something like that. So let's show this. I'm going to go into File. I'm going to choose a drawing from my Google Drive. And I'm going to choose Manually Select Entities. And then I'll just press the Import button. And now I'm given the opportunity to select what I want to bring into this project. And I'll note that this is not going to modify the original drawing that I'm bringing in. This is just going to modify the copy of the drawing that's brought into my project file. So I can choose to either pick the entities that I want or use a box selection. I'm going to go ahead and use the box. And I'm going to draw a box around maybe the cul-de-sac up here, if that's all I need to see. And you can see that that's chosen 39 entities, and it's bringing in points and lines. So I'll just press Clip. Yes. And now we can see that what's been brought into my job is not the entire drawing, but just the parts that I needed. This should help reduce some of the large drawing files if you don't need to see all of it in the field. Now let's talk about surface creation and volumes, two other new features that have been added to 1.06. Let me switch jobs here. I have a job that is just a stockpile that's been measured, and you can see that it's, let's go ahead and connect. We can see that this job is just a bunch of stockpile points along with a boundary, and there's a little road going up to the top of the stockpile. So I'm going to go to Tools, Volume, which is a new button in 1.06, and we can define here the current surface and the reference surface to calculate our volume. Now the cool thing here is that as soon as we got into this routine, we've automatically got the preview of the surface that's being used. So it's really nice to look at this in 3D. If I tap on the left to change into 3D mode, I can rotate and see a little bit about my stockpile, what's going on here. So looking at the surface, for the current surface at this point, I'm using all the points in my job as the current surface. I could change this to use a layer or a surface file or a project surface, which is just a surface file that's already been loaded into my job. And for the reference surface, I can choose a point range, fixed elevation. I can do from a reference point, a layer, surface file, or project surface. In this case, I'm going to choose boundary polyline, and I'm going to go back into 2D mode and choose select polyline. And I'll just tap to select this outer edge polyline and press done. And now we can see the two surfaces, the reference surface in red and the current surface in blue. So rotating into 3D mode again to see a little bit what's going on. You can see here that my cut and fill are already available in the top of the screen. I can see that this is entirely a fill, and so the numbers are already up there available for me to see. But when I'm ready to get a full report of this, I can go ahead and press the report button. But before I do that, I want to show you some options that are available in volumes. Using the hamburger icon up in the top right, I can get into settings, and here I can define my cut swell factor, my fill shrink factor. I can decide whether I want my report to have a full triangle report, and if I want, I can report tons on this volume. So if I choose to report tons, I can choose from a list of available densities. So if I press the menu here beside density, and I come up here with the full list of predefined density. So if I wanted to do just packed earth, I could choose that density. I'll go ahead and press save. And now I'm ready to press report and get my volume report. I'm going to choose PDF, and I can choose that I want to attach a custom logo. So I'm going to attach a Carlson logo to the top of this report and press export. And I've done this before, so I'm going to overwrite this. And my volume report has been created. It's giving the job, date, time, how my surface was created, the volume, the weight, the density, and the area. And because I've left the triangle report on, it's giving me a full report of all the triangles that were used for this calculation. So I can press the share button if I'm ready to share this, or if I don't need to share it, I just hit back to go back. Now this was a really simple volume calculation using just points, but if I need to create a surface file, there's also the ability in 1.06 to go under the Create menu and choose the new option, Surface. And here I can create a surface file to either share with somebody else or to use in this job. So here I can choose my point range to create my surface file, and the point range is going to be all in this case. And I'll select my break lines. So I can either pick from a box for my break lines, or I could select a box select, or I can choose a whole layer. So in this case, I'm going to pick my break lines, and I'm going to call this road going up here my break lines. I have 3 polylines defining this road. And from drawing options, I can choose whether I want to import the surface to the job automatically and create a project surface, or I can just create a file if I so choose. So I'll go ahead and press create and accept. And my surface has been created, and because I had import surface to job enabled, you can see that it's now showing in my job. So when I cancel out of here, I can still see my surface. Now I want to point out one last new feature relating to surfaces. If I go to layout and I add a surface to my layout list, and here I can see that stockpile is the only surface in my job so far, so I'll choose stockpile. And I'm going to set a vertical offset of 2 feet from this surface and call it L1. You can see now that this surface is in my layout list and it's giving me the current fill to this surface. So what if I need to add another offset to the same surface? You can now do this. I can press the plus icon, surface, and I'm going to choose the same surface, and I'm going to call it a 5-foot offset, and we'll call it L2. Select. As you can see now that I have 2 copies of this same surface in my layout list at different offsets. So this lets me quickly switch between different levels of my surface. And I can just tap back and forth to switch which one I'm using. I'll mention one more new feature while we're here in the stakeout menu. If you press the 3-dot icon in the upper right hand corner, you'll see the new import coordinates option. This allows you to bring in a coordinate file for stakeout directly. So you can either open up an ASCII text file or a Carlson CRD or CRDB file or any sort of coordinate file that you have, and this will automatically bring in those points and add them to the layout list in one stake. So it allows you to easily send a coordinate file to stakeout, maybe from the office to the field. Let's back out of here now and look at the new calculator improvements. Over on the Tools menu in the left, you can now open up a calculator. The calculator has been available throughout the software when you click on certain entry features, but now it's available anytime you need it in the Tools menu. You'll see that this has opened up a half-panel calculator, which allows you to do simple math calculations, and it also has memory buttons at the top. So I can use the MS button to save any item to memory, and this also copies it to the clipboard of your Android device, so you can paste it out of the clipboard wherever you may need it. And then of course MR brings up the latest item that you've stored to memory, and the M arrow with the down arrow allows you to access any items that you have in your memory. In addition to memory, the calculator also includes a full history of all your calculations, so I can tap that to see all the calculations that have been done, and then pull it back into the main view if I need it. And finally, let's talk about updating your software. When you're ready to jump to version 1.06, the software now includes auto updating in the field if you're running version 1.05 or higher. Tap the pyramid, go to the About screen, and all you need to do to update is click Check for Updates, and the software will reach out to the server, find the latest version, and install it for you. I hope this has been a good introduction to some of the new features you can expect to see in version 1.06. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please reach out to us through Carlson Technical Support. Thanks.